This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, and faith-focused feature stories with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Good afternoon. Thanks for checking in. President Trump is giving Iran more time to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. He's instructed the Pentagon to postpone for 5 days any military strikes against Iran's power plants.
They want to make a deal, and we are very willing to make a deal. It's got to be a good deal, and it's got to be no more wars, no more nuclear weapons.
Originally, the commander-in-chief had threatened to obliterate Iran's energy infrastructure by tonight if the strait remains shut off to commercial vessels.
We're doing a 5-day period. We'll see how that goes. And if it goes well, we're going to end up with settling this. Otherwise, we'll just keep bombing our little hearts out.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was asked if the president is in the process of winding down or ratcheting up the war.
They're not mutually exclusive. Sometimes you have to escalate to de-escalate.
A new CBS News poll shows a majority of Americans do not believe the war will end anytime soon.
There's still a lot of people who think this may take months, may take years. And what that goes to is approval. The longer you think this will last, the more disapproving of it you are.
Poll director Anthony Salvanto. LaGuardia Airport in New York remains shut down this hour following a fatal collision last night between a passenger plane and a fire truck. It happened on the runway.
Frontier 4195, just stop there, please. Stop, truck one, stop. Stop, truck one, stop.
The Air Canada jet struck the Port Authority vehicle as the plane was taxiing after landing on a flight from Montreal. Aviation expert Tom Costello at NBC News.
I can't remember a case, at least in the last 20, 25 years, in which a plane hit a vehicle on the runway and that resulted in a crash.
The nose of the plane was completely torn off. Both the pilot and co-pilot were killed. There are several injured as well. This passenger recounts that harrowing ordeal.
We stopped really quickly, and then 2 seconds later, we just had an absolute, slam. Everybody was flying everywhere. I mean, it was chaos.
76 people were aboard that flight at the time of the collision. The Trump administration's dispatched ICE agents to 14 of the nation's busiest airports to help cut down on the long lines there. They're assisting TSA officers who've been working without a paycheck for over a month. Due to the partial government shutdown, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy.
They know how to pat people down. They know how to run the X-ray machines because they are, again, under Homeland Security with TSA. So if we can bring in other assets and tools to assist TSA to get rid of these lines, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Former acting ICE Director Jonathan Fahey.
It's a short-term fix, but something needs to be done when you see these lines. But the more important thing with all of this is like what we're seeing in LaGuardia. Safety is the most important thing, and that's why we need security at our airports.
Meantime, the world's richest man, Elon Musk, has offered to pay the salaries of tens of thousands of TSA workers in the midst of this funding impasse. The average TSA worker makes $61,000 a year. The U.S. Supreme Court hearing oral arguments today on whether states can count mail-in ballots that are postmarked by Election Day but arrive after Election Day. That decision could have huge ramifications in this year's midterms when control of Congress is at stake. The ballot battle's one of 3 involving elections that the Supreme Court is hearing this year. Hate crime in London. 4 ambulances belonging to a Jewish group have been set ablaze on the north side of that city. Scotland Yard calling it an act of anti-Semitism.
Many of the leaders here in the Jewish community said they were on high alert. They were aware that they were potential targets. And they say, what is next? What more is to come here?
The BBC's Greg McKenzie. Hawaii reeling from historic flooding. Fox's Robert Ray says the damage is significant, about 25 miles north of Honolulu.
Light rain falling amid piles of debris, appliances, mattresses, and furniture. And we look at the inside of these homes, and they are just full of mud and water. Homes brought off their foundations. This is all because of 2 back-to-back Kona lows. And those are systems that brought in 60-mile-an-hour plus winds with feet of rain, not inches, feet of rain.
A 31-year-old Army vet has been charged with attempted murder in the state of Georgia. Police say Alexia Moore took pills to induce an illegal abortion.
The case is complicated by the fact that the defendant was at least 22 weeks pregnant, meaning that the fetus was medically viable outside the womb and did live for an hour outside the womb before dying.
Legal analyst Thane Rosenbaum, Georgia law bans abortions after a fetal heartbeat that's typically at 6 weeks gestation. Major upset in the March Madness men's college basketball tournament.
4.5 seconds left to play. 9th-seeded Iowa trails number 1 seed Florida by 2 points. TBS with a call as the Hawkeyes' Alvaro Fulgaris gets the ball.
Fulgaris for 3. Iowa takes the lead by 1.
The Gators could not come back.
That's it. Iowa, for the first time since 1999, will head to the Sweet 16.
Iowa wins 73-72 as Florida becomes the first number 1 seed to be knocked out of this year's March Madness.
Heather Bosch with that report. And still to come on the Noon Report. Allergy season is here. Grape growers face uncertain future. And GMAC is back at Syracuse.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. We're looking at a winter-like chill this afternoon. I've got the numbers in the complete forecast up in 10.
All right, Kevin, thank you very much. It won't be too much longer, folks, before spring allergy season is in full bloom. Spectrum News health reporter Aaron Billups says the severity of the season has a lot to do with how wet it's been.
Well, it's all about the water. The amount of snow and rain that occurs when it's cooler impacts the amount of pollen released in the springtime. Because the water feeds the roots, priming the trees, grass, and weeds. Then you add a few warm, sunny days, and the trees are ready to release that pollen.
A third of adults and a quarter of all children suffer from seasonal allergies. Experts are predicting a rather robust allergy season this year. The Frederick Douglass Greater Rochester International Airport in western New York is bucking the trend when it comes to long wait times at TSA checkpoints. Airport officials say the average wait time is just 20 minutes compared to several hours at other airports. Airport Director Andy Moore tells 13 Wham!
Yeah, we are not impacted by any shutdown or anything along those lines that you see on national media and social media at other airports across New York State or across the country.
Rochester uses private screeners through a TSA partnership program. It expects about 50,000 departing passengers over the upcoming spring break travel period. A tragic crash in western Pennsylvania has taken the lives of several teenagers. Family Life's Brian Query.
State police say 4 people were killed in a fiery single-vehicle crash early Saturday morning in Sewickley Township, Westmoreland County. Investigators say the car struck a tree and caught fire around 3:30 a.m. with no survivors. The county coroner's office confirmed that 4 high school students in the Yawk School District, ages 15 to 18, were the victims in the crash. Mourners gathered Sunday at a growing memorial near the crash site, leaving flowers and photos as the community comes together in grief. The district says school will be in session Monday, as counselors will be available to students while the investigation into the crash continues. Brian Query, Family Life News.
All right, Brian, thank you for that. New York stores are now required to accept cash. Here's Family Life's Sarah Harnish.
The new law, which took effect Saturday, makes it illegal for a New York food store or retail establishment to refuse payment in cash for goods or services. Customers cannot be forced to pay with a credit or a debit card either. Businesses also can't charge consumers a higher price if they pay cash. Stores that violate the law could face a $1,000 fine for their first offense. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
Thank you, Sarah. Tensions are rising over a proposed ICE facility in Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania. Dozens of demonstrators showed up recently in Tremont to voice their opposition to the federal immigration enforcement effort.
I think any ICE facility anywhere is awful. They're not facilities for immigrants. They're labor camps.
But others support the actions of ICE.
We're looked at as these radical people who just want everyone gone that
doesn't look like our skin color, and it's just not the truth. We just want criminals who aren't supposed to be here gone.
ICE wants to convert an old Big Lots distribution center near Tremont into a holding center for illegal immigrants. Local grape growers are facing a sudden and serious challenge. This after a major buyer pulled out of funding a large portion of the industry. Nate Mills with WGRZ.
Experts say grape growers across Western New York are scrambling to adjust their operations and protect their vineyards after Refresco canceled numerous contracts with local farms. The industry is moving quickly to support families whose livelihoods are now at risk.
Cornell viticulturalist Jennifer Phillips Russo says the loss of Refresco is a major blow to the local grape industry.
This is a very trying time for our growers because there are some growers out there who will lose their livelihood. And these contracts, the stoppage happened within the last week. And we have already had our growers what we call pruning and tying and preparing those vineyards through, so they already have money put into them and they have no home to take their grapes anywhere.
She adds, while consumers will still see juice, jam, and wines on store shelves, many smaller grape growers are going to go under because of the Refresco deal falling through. A legal battle over the future of baseball in State College, Pennsylvania is now headed to court. The dispute has to do with Penn State University and the State College Spikes. That's a collegiate summer baseball team. Jordan Mansberger with WTAJ.
More legal drama unfolding between the State College Spikes and the university that they've shared a field with for 2 decades. The Spikes claim that Penn State is attempting to force them out of State College.
Penn State says the Spikes owe them more than $1.5 million for use of Medlar Field at Lebrano Park. A judge has scheduled a hearing for Wednesday, April 8th at the Center County Courthouse. A deal's in the works to hire Jerry McNamara as the new men's basketball coach at Syracuse University. McNamara won a national title with SU. Back in 2003, he spent the past 2 seasons at Siena. Still to come on the Noon Report for Monday, ICE at the airports. Iran ultimatum extended. And what happened at LaGuardia Airport?
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. In an essay entitled After 10 Years, German pastor-theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer asked his former seminary students, have there ever been people in history who in their time, like us, had so little ground under their feet? People to whom every possible alternative open to them at the time appeared equally unbearable, senseless, and contrary to life, end quote. His question certainly resonates today. In a civilizational moment like this one, so much seems up in the air. Every option can seem compromised to us. What is the way forward? Or to borrow a phrase, how shall we then live? Even more, it's easy to doubt that we have any role to play in God's unfolding of human history. It's easy to think, who am I to make a difference? After all, I'm no Wilberforce, I'm no Bonhoeffer. I'm not one of those kinds of great heroes in history. But of course, what we do not know, what we cannot know, is whether this moment that we're in is a Wilberforce moment or a Bonhoeffer moment. Think about it. Both men found themselves in pivotal cultural moments and places where all seemed lost, to be falling apart. Both men worked for change. And in the case of Wilberforce, there was renewal. In the case of Bonhoeffer, there was collapse. But both men faced evil to oppose. Both men saw brokenness that they were called to help restore. And each man faithfully responded to the calling of God. So neither man was a failure. The results were, as T.S. Eliot once put it, none of their business. Instead, the results always belong to God. In his book, The Call, Os Guinness observed that most Christians miss a full understanding of calling because they fail to fully reckon with the seriousness of the hour to which they've been called. In other words, we're not just called to a ministry. We're not just called to a particular vocation, even not just to a set of relationships. Scripture says that we are called to a time and place, this time and place, by the God who is overseeing the story of history. The first Christians, for example, were called to a time within the Roman Empire in which it was both normal and legal to abandon unwanted newborn children. And a practice known as exposure, especially little girls, were left in the wilderness to die if they were unwanted. The first Christians, because they believed every single person is made in the image of God, would make a practice of going out into the wilderness, searching for these children and rescuing them. Now, they had no idea that by responding to the seriousness of their moment, that they would change the course of history. However, decades later, when Roman communities had a demographic crisis of far more men than women because of the practice of exposure, Roman men began to go to church in order to find wives because, well, that's where the women were. According to historian Rodney Stark, it was the acts of Christian faithfulness and rescuing newborns that helps to explain why Christianity exploded in growth in the 2nd century. Now, like those early Christians, we cannot know what God might do with our obedience. We do not know if this is a Wilberforce moment or a Bonhoeffer moment. So what's most important is that we stand by what is true and right, regardless of the direction our culture shifts. I invite you to take a deeper look at this biblical idea of calling, as well as the theological realities of hope, truth, and being made in the image of God. All of this is in Truth Rising, the study. Designed for churches, families, and small groups, Truth Rising, the study will move Christians from feeling powerless in the face of civilizational decline to embracing and living out their God-given calling in this time and place. Learn more about Truth Rising, the study, by going to colsoncenter.org/truth. That's colsoncenter.org/truth. For Breakpoint, I'm John Stonestreet.
Thank you, John. Let's head outside. Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life forecast. Stays fairly drab and cloudy for this afternoon. A touch of store flurries around, little change in temperature. Partial clearing tonight, low temps into the 20s. Tomorrow and Wednesday, a fair amount of sunshine. High tomorrow, lower 40s, milder on Wednesday with a high temperature then reaching into the 50s.
All right, Kevin, things going to start graining up fast out there, we hope. This is the Noon Report. I'm your host, Bob Price. This is what's happening Monday, the 23rd of March. The pilot and co-pilot of an Air Canada jet killed last night after their plane collided with a fire truck on the runway at LaGuardia Airport in New York. The collision happened as the plane was taxiing on the runway. The nose of the jet completely torn off. The fire truck was responding to another incident and had permission to cross that runway. Aviation expert Robert Sumwalt.
This is a very rare occurrence. Rarely do you see airplanes collide with vehicles during the landing rollout. These ground vehicles had lights on them. They're listening to the control tower. They're getting permission to cross the runway.
Former NTSB investigator Alan Deal.
These controllers are overseeing a delicate dance. You've got departing planes, you've got crossing ground traffic, you've got landing traffic. So everybody's trying to do their job, but somehow the timing got off.
The airport remains closed at this hour. ICE agents have descended on U.S. airports today as unpaid. TSA agents continue their sick out due to the partial government shutdown. Borders Czar Tom Homan says these federal law enforcement officers should help alleviate the long lines at security checkpoints.
It's a work in progress, but we will be at the airports helping TSA move those lines along.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
The last thing that the American people need are for untrained ICE agents to be deployed at airports all across the country.
The ICE agents are helping provide security at 14 of the nation's busiest airports. President Trump giving Iran more time to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. He's instructed the Pentagon to postpone for 5 days any military strikes against Iranian power plants.
All they're doing is clogging up the strait. But from a military standpoint, they're finished.
Originally, the commander-in-chief had threatened to obliterate Iran's energy infrastructure by tonight if the strait remains closed off. For more on the war, here's CBS's Charlie D'Agata.
Israel launched a new wave of airstrikes targeting Iran as the death toll climbed to more than 3,200, according to human rights groups. Yet, after more than 3 weeks of bombardment, Iran continues to strike back. Two ballistic missiles hit the Israeli cities of Dimona and Arad over the weekend, not far from Israel's main nuclear research facility, wounding around 200 people. In Israel's other war against Hezbollah in Lebanon, Israeli airstrikes blew up a coastal highway bridge. Lebanese officials say more than 1 million people have been displaced. The launch of 2 intermediate-range ballistic missiles in the direction of the joint U.S.-UK military base of Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, more than 2,000 miles away from Iran, has raised serious concerns about both the reach and supply of its longer-range missiles.
That's correspondent Charlie D'Agata with the latest on Operation Epic Fury. Meantime, there's a new poll out today on what Americans think of the war. CBS's Ed O'Keefe.
57% think the war in Iran is going badly for the United States. 66% say it's a war of choice. A third say it's a war of necessity. Fewer than 1/3 believe the administration has clearly stated U.S. goals on the conflict. Meanwhile, the issue that's going to matter in the midterms, and one that seems to be uniting most Americans right now, is gas prices. 85% of Americans say gas prices are up where they live. 2/3 say they don't think they should have to pay more at the pump because of the conflict with Iran.
Ed O'Keefe at the White House. Overseas, Scotland Yard says it's treating an arson attack in North London as an act of anti-Semitism.
4 ambulances belonging to Hatzolah, a Jewish volunteer charity, were set on fire. Community leader Mark Gardner says Hatzolah's paramedics help Jews and non-Jews.
This attack is all the more sickening for the nature of what Hatzolah does in saving life.
No one was injured, but exploding oxygen tanks in the burning ambulances blew out windows in nearby homes, forcing more than 30 residents to evacuate.
Vicky Barker reporting. The U.S. Supreme Court hearing oral arguments today on whether states can count mail-in ballots that are postmarked by Election Day but arrive after Election Day. All 50 states require mail-in ballots be postmarked by Election Day, but 14 states have grace periods in which ballots that are submitted by Election Day can be counted if they arrive late. 4 states have passed laws eliminating these grace periods and require mail-in ballots be received by Election Day in order to count. Heavy rains triggered historic flooding in Hawaii. That's where we find reporter Carter Evans.
Entire neighborhoods swamped. The impact catastrophic.
We are now beginning to contemplate the reality that this storm could cost over $1 billion of damage.
The latest round of storms comes after days of direct hits from a type of tropical cyclone known as a Kona low. Last week, some parts of Maui saw almost 4 feet of rainfall. Now, torrential rain is falling again.
NASA says it was a meteorite that whizzed through the sky northwest of Houston over the weekend. A piece of it crashed through the home of Sherry James.
So my grandson to go see what it was. He come back and said, "You have a hole in the ceiling." And I'm like, what?
The shockwave caused sonic booms that were heard by many Houstonians. Last week, a similar meteorite flew by western Pennsylvania and eastern Ohio at some 45,000 miles an hour. Next week, NASA will be launching its next mission to the moon, and Florida's Space Coast could be cashing in big time. Here's reporter Rory O'Neill.
By some estimates, 400,000 people could crowd hotels and beaches near the Kennedy Space Center to watch the Artemis II mission blast off. A crew of 4 will spend more than 9 days checking out the capsule systems while flying around the moon on a mission that will send humans farther into space than ever before. Artemis II is set to launch no earlier than April 1st and could have a $160 million economic impact. I'm Rory O'Neill.
Thank you, Rory. This is the Noon Report for a Monday on Family Life. Is Issues in Education. Mondays during the Noon Report, we spotlight the issues impacting our schools with Dr. Ralph Kerr at the Teaching and Learning Institute in Houghton, New York. Ralph, welcome back to the program, sir. This is where the real March Madness happens, right here, every Monday on Family Life. I want to begin with Governor Hochul and her plan to equip nearly a dozen SUNY schools with daycare centers. This would accommodate adult learners who pursue degrees in high-demand fields. I should preface that with adult learners who have children. The school is, each of these schools are getting $200,000 to do do the necessary retrofitting, Ralph. Is this money well spent, in your opinion?
Well, this is like so many things. There's a couple of sides to the story. People might say, well, this is really mission creep. SUNY schools are supposed to be in the business of providing education, and they are doing it for free, by the way.
Yeah.
But here they want to add daycare to accommodate young women that are interested in getting an education, but simply can't afford daycare, even though the tuition at the school is free. On the other hand, I'm supportive of it. I think it has long-term benefits for these student learners because they can get a job in an area that we need people, which will increase the workforce participation, which is really a good thing. Secondly, I think it will reduce dropouts at the schools because sometimes these young women get into situations because of a lack of daycare where they end up just saying, you know what, I just can't do this anymore.
There's a study, I had to pick your brain on this because this is such an issue in young people nowadays, mental health. A study by Johns Hopkins University shows depression and suicidal ideations are stubbornly high among college kids, despite a lot of effort now by the universities to combat this. What is going on in the minds of young adults in this country, Ralph?
Well, some of these I think are valid. Others I really question. Academic pressures. Some students are getting a lot of pressure from their parents about their academic performance, and maybe some scholarships are involved. And there's certainly financial stress. The bigger issue really, I think, is the social media. You got Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
A lot of loneliness and social isolation comes as a result of that. You got substance abuse. I think if young people had a relationship with Jesus Christ, they would be able to deal a lot more with the pressures of life changes that they're experiencing.
Yeah.
I know in our church, I want to just salute John Cole, who's our youth pastor. He does a great job with the young people, and I just wish that more of these young people that are dealing with these mental health issues would be more active in their church and develop a relationship with Jesus Christ.
And having known John for a long time, played a lot of noon ball with John. He is such a great guy. And we'll give a plug for Christian universities because I wonder if they have this as much at a university like Houghton as they would at other schools.
Yeah, well, even at Houghton, they do have more and more people that are seeing counselors. But again, the counseling that the students are getting is with a Christian emphasis.
Yeah.
And I think there is a big difference in that as well. So go Houghton University.
There you go. Once a Highlander, always a Highlander.
There you go.
Speaking of schools, there are 5 high schools in Central New York. This was a huge story last week, Ralph. Rome Free Academy, my wife's alma mater, Utica Proctor, Cicero North Syracuse, Henninger, a football powerhouse there, and Liverpool, all refusing to play the big one, Christian Brothers Academy, in football next year. They've taken Christian Brothers off the schedule. What is going on here, Ralph, and do you agree with the action taken by these 5 schools?
Well, here's the thing. Christian Brothers Academy just happens to have won the last 3 state championships in football, and the scores in those games were maybe 48-7, 45-3.
Yeah.
Now, this is a state championship we're talking about.
Yeah.
So I applaud these schools that are just saying, we have the option to move from Tier 1 to Tier 2 in our region, and we're going to do that. I think it brings up a much greater issue, though, that you and I have lived through on more than one occasion. The whole issue of private schools with their ability to recruit from anywhere they want to versus a public school that has to use students that live within their district boundaries. So it's a whole different ballgame that we're into. And I feel badly in one sense for the Christian Brothers Academy because in order to complete their schedule, they're going to have to make long trips up to Massachusetts and Vermont and the Buffalo area rather than playing schools nearby them. But I think for the schools that have made this decision, they recognize that playing a school like CBA, the score is always too lopsided.
Yeah.
Their players end up being demoralized, and it's not even competition. So it's an important issue, and I'm glad that these schools have taken this stand at this time on it. Maybe it'll cause the State Athletic Association to take a look again at the whole thing of private versus public schools in all sports.
Yeah, and I heard one coach say long ago, when it comes to this, the private schools, they don't rebuild, they just reload.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it goes from here. But hey, if folks have questions about any of the topics discussed today, we had some real juicy ones this week, Ralph, or they simply want to learn more about the Teaching and Learning Institute, doing a great job in Houghton, New York. Ralph, where can they find you online?
Thank you, Bob. They can simply go to whyrun.org, whyrun.org.
Always good to hear from Dr. Kerr. Issues in Education comes your way every Monday during the Noon Report or online anytime at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. A cold front that crossed the area last evening, preceded by warmth, accompanied by rain and thunder, and followed by much chillier air, is now pushing off the Atlantic coast. And we've got a chilly air mass in place region-wide, but the expectation is for partial clearing in the next 12 hours and a good deal of sunshine to follow tomorrow and Wednesday. But it stays fairly drab and cloudy for this afternoon. A touch of store flurries around, little change in temperature. Partial clearing tonight, low temps into the 20s. Tomorrow and Wednesday, a fair amount of sunshine. High tomorrow, lower 40s, milder on Wednesday with a high temperature then reaching into the 50s.
All right, Kev, we'll be mowing our lawns before you know it, folks. And finally, at noon today, if you're looking for an overload of cuteness, look no further than today. Bray Tennis has this report.
It's National Puppy Day, celebrating playful energy, extreme cuteness, and puppy breath. But know that adopting a puppy is a lifelong commitment, and it's not for everyone. So if you're a no today, you can still support puppies by donating supplies or cash to your local animal shelter to help puppies find forever homes. But if your answer is yes to puppies, many shelters are offering Puppy Day deals today. I'm Bree Tennis.
All right, Bree, thank you very much. Who doesn't love a puppy anyway? That's our world, the world we live in. Monday, the 23rd of March. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.